Welcome to the Troxel Podcast. I'm Evan Troxel. In this episode, I welcome Phil Read back to the show, along with special guest Harlan Brumm. Phil is no stranger to the podcast. He's a seasoned AEC technologist and founder of the AEC Acoustics Leadership Retreat. And Harlan is the Revit product leader at Autodesk. But today's conversation is not about software. It's about the inflection point in a career where the focus shifts from tools to people. In this episode, we explore a different kind of professional growth, one that many of us in AEC weren't trained for. We talk about what it means to move from being a technical expert into a leadership role and how few support systems actually exist to help with that transition. Phil shares some of the origin story of the AEC Acoustics Retreat, why it's designed to remove noise and complexity, and what it's like to create a truly safe space for emerging leaders in the built environment. And Harlan and I reflect on our own experiences attending last year, offering our relatable perspective on how difficult but necessary this shift can be. This conversation highlights a theme that echoes through many episodes of this podcast, the challenging transition from technologist to leader. This shift requires more than technical expertise. It demands a new mindset, emotional intelligence, and a supportive community. Yet, many AEC professionals end up navigating this transformation alone. Our discussion explores how to better support this critical journey and why it's essential for our industry's future. As usual, there's an extensive amount of additional information in the show notes, including a link to check out the Fall Leadership Retreat hosted by Phil, so be sure to check that out. You can find it directly in your podcast app if you're a paid supporter of Troxel, and if you're just signed up as a free member or as a casual listener, you can find the show notes on the website, which is at trxl.co. While you're there, sign up and become a member. I truly enjoy talking about leadership, and now, without further ado, I bring you my conversation with Phil Read and Harlan Brumm. Phil, great to see you once again, not in person on the podcast this time.
No,
I think
not
we've
as
done
much
a little bit of both, but like you said, it's not as good if it's not in person. So
yeah,
we'll do our best.
I think so. Next time.
Yeah. So you're on the East Coast.
I'm on the East Coast, North Carolina.
I'm on the West Coast. Previously, we've met in the middle at the Denver airport at the United Lounge,
both fly direct,
which is fun. And so this is maybe a little easier, but like you said, it's not as great of an experience. But this is how we normally do it on the podcast because I have guests from all over the world, and it seems to work pretty well. So let's jump into the conversation today. We're talking about a topic that leads to an event, leads to a way to kind of process changes in one's trajectory in their career path, and that has to do with leadership and people skills and things like that. So let's start talking about that because we have a special guest that we're going to bring into the conversation here who has personal experience on many levels in this way. And so Phil, it's great to have you back, and let's talk about leadership retreats and things of that nature.
Yeah, so we started this in the fall of 2020 because I was at a point in my career trajectory where I needed help. And there were people talking to me about the things I was talking to Randy about, and they needed help. And then there wasn't a thing for this. Or maybe there is, but like not where it's birds of a feather, those of us with the same stresses in AEC. And I think about, the why do you do this? Like, what was the reason? And it was really just the unintended consequences of kind of following the ambition. You get good at something and then you get another opportunity. You get good at something that you get another opportunity. Eventually, I have to, manage and lead teams of people. And it was so nice when I could just focus on Revit, like where I could just drill myself away in a quiet space and nut out whatever the problem was. It's so straightforward. I knew every day was a success or failure. And then the complexity of working in teams of people where you're accountable for them. And I mentioned to you a moment ago, there's a dynamic when you're trying to solve a technical problem where you talk to everyone about that technical problem. You share openly, they're asking questions, you're asking questions, and then you get elevated into management positions. And now you can't talk to everyone about everything. Mm-hmm. You have to keep things close. You have to smile as you pass that person in the hallway, knowing that you just come out of a meeting and they're going to be laid off if things don't change very soon. Just business stresses. And it's that kind of irrecoverable complexity, and you have to learn how to manage it. You have to learn how the humbling experience of realizing, chatting with Randy and other people at these events, that I can't change anything except how I respond to what I can't change. Like, that's my kind of high level mantra now. You just have to absorb the news and go, okay, well, good. Let's figure this out. It's either a limitation of knowledge or information or physics. We'll figure it out. And sometimes it's really bad news, but most of the time you just go, well, what's going on? And when you find out what's going on, you're able to, you're like, oh, that's it? Oh, we can figure that out. But the challenge is the initial response to that information. If you lock up, your team won't come to you.
Yeah.
You don't facilitate the improvement. You have to learn how to respond. And for me, that's, at least those who've known me back from Revit days, very impatient, hated to fail, like humiliated if I didn't get it right. And Dave Heaton was a great guy. Like, he was fantastic as a manager. We still chat. But I had to learn how to deal with expectations of people in a way that was completely different than the expectations of how I manage myself and learning how to use technology at a high level. And that's really it. And there's other people that I know in my career path that had the same stresses.
Yeah.
Why not get together? Yeah.
So we know who Randy is, but maybe you can explain who Randy is to the audience who doesn't know who Randy is, because I think that's an important aspect.
There's some other videos where you've had a chat with Randy, but he's got a degree in law, a degree in psychology, a leadership. Those are both, I think, from Duke. Then he's got a leadership degree from Georgetown, and he's an accomplished musician. A perfect guy, perfect demeanor for this kind of event, where, the technical event we have in the spring, people can go away and talk about what they did at the technical event. The leadership event, it can be close to the chest. That's the kind of stresses people talk about. So we don't share what other people share. That's kind of, and Randy sets those kind of parameters early on in the event.
So Randy Ben is who Phil's talking about, and Randy Ben is an amazing facilitator of conversation. When I think of Randy, I think of him as a great question asker and then listener, right? And to me, he then takes kind of what happens in the group at the leadership retreat and then kind of connects the dots and really enables people to be extremely vulnerable, which might sound scary to those who would be looking at this from the outside, but when you're in it, it's actually one of the most
finally I can be vulnerable.
Yeah. It's one of those moments where you're like, oh, this is what I've been looking for, because I can actually ask real questions here. So what we're talking about is the leadership retreat that Phil does in the fall for AEC Acoustics, which is Phil's thing. And
name it something, so that's what we named it. Yeah.
We're in the summer now. We're getting ready for the fall. There's a fall event coming up. It's happening the first week of November, right? In 2025.
First full week of November, 9th to 14th. Show up on a Sunday, off-site Monday, 3 days of leadership discussions, breakfast, and see you next year on Friday.
At a camp in Florida. It's a really great venue. And so now I'm going to introduce our guest for this part of the podcast, who is Harlan Brumm, who is Revit product manager at Autodesk. So welcome to the show, Harlan. It's great to see you.
Thanks. Yeah, great to see both of you. And I love the topic. Like Phil said, when I was there last year, standing at the dock, reflecting that, like, this isn't what I need more of. We leadership is really hard. Like, and it's not something that you get a lot of training and support on generally. Like, that's one of the things that you learn. And typically it's all like self-study. And so having this group together to, share, commiserate, and do it in a setting that is really lets you focus on that. Like, there's a lot of distraction in the world, and being able to actually focus with a like-minded group and talk through these things is super cathartic and just kind of letting you leave refreshed. I definitely felt that way afterwards. I was like, oh, this was a great week. So no doubt I'm coming back.
Well, I've known Harlan a long time.
Right.
And Harlan has always been this Zen jazz player. We were at an event one year. Harlan probably knows what I'm going to mention. And his presentation to the event about this, like, here's what we're going to do. It's going to be super cool. Whatever happened wouldn't work. And Harlan just kind of rocks on his heels and kind of has his hands in his pocket. He goes, okay, well, we're going to do something different. And I was like, that is awesome. How do you do that? And then you get to know Harlan, and you find out, oh no, Harlan has stuff going on that's complex too. He needs like time to just decompress. And it's like, oh, cool. Okay.
Nice. Let's take a quick break from the conversation to tell you about AVAIL. Is your team struggling to find the BIM assets they need? AVAIL's content management system simplifies access to all of your firm's content in one easy-to-use platform. No matter where your files live or what type of files they are, you can easily search and access them from AVAIL. Now, designers can consistently find and reuse all types of content. So what does that mean? Well, standards-compliant models and drawings are easier to create. The documentation process is less chaotic. New hires are easier to onboard. Projects are delivered faster with fewer errors. You get the idea. Visit getavail.com to try AVAIL for free and request a free demo. That's getavail.com, GETAVAIL.com. My thanks to AVAIL for supporting this episode of the Troxel Podcast. And now let's get back to the conversation. So, Harlan, you work for a company that puts on a rather large technology conference. And what we're talking about here is not that. Maybe, Harlan, do you want to describe kind of what your experience has been at previous leadership retreat, which is where we met in person for the first time last year?
It's so different. I mean, which is phenomenal, right? In a normal tech conference, you're going between rooms, you might bump into people in the hallway and have a conversation. And, you know, I often have that experience where that's sometimes the best part of those conferences where, you know, you're running into people and making those connections, or at like the evening events and activities. The acoustics and leadership retreat are so much more intimate and, you know, much more of an opportunity to actually connect with people. I think, you know, the best parts of a conference show up at that thing. So it was a small group of people, you know, at a camp. So you get kind of the outdoorsness of it. I wouldn't call it like a hippie camp, but it felt like that at first when you show up. And I know some people probably might hesitate with that. Oh my God, but you know, there's nice rooms and you're all together and there's nobody else there.
It's just rustic. So it's not.
It's not like AU, like in Vegas or somewhere where there's this big party going on outside of it. It's actually focused and you know, it takes a little while for people to open up, I feel like, in that setting. But you know, the fact that Phil mentioned this too, that the big event, the big like outside the conference thing is actually the first day, which actually helps with sort of almost, I would call it like team building. It helps everybody get together and it's an opportunity to kind of engage in a more relaxed setting to kick things off. And then you get into the deep dive conversations the rest of the time. And it's just fundamentally a different vibe and a different event. And that really made it special and unique as well. But the topic is also big, right? We're talking about people who, like Phil, you were saying here, like come from a tech background traditionally. These are people who were individual contributors and now have to like step into a leadership role or a management role. And, you know, the problems are different and there's not that much like support that typically happens in those environments all over the place. Some companies are great, some companies are not. A lot of that, you know, I find gets done by self-study. So this is an opportunity to actually like be with like-minded people facing similar problems. And really, I found it fascinating how open the conversations were. Like people were really transparent about their struggles or the things that are happening for them, and everybody else also reflecting. So it's a really dynamic conversation, which I just loved. And, you know, you still have the tech stuff going on. I mean,
you can't help it.
You can't help it. When we're sitting on the porches outside the rooms at night, like conversation going forever. And, you know, everybody, of course, because I'm looking after Revit, there's a lot of Revit talk, which I'm happy to have. And it was more enjoyable in that case a lot of times as well. No PowerPoint. I don't have to worry about showing demos and stuff. So, you know, a really phenomenal connection. And I've made a number of just great connections with other industry people, whether that was with other startups or customers, like the ability to connect and continue those conversations afterwards is just better than what I've seen in other conferences. Sometimes, I mean, I go to a conference and I meet so many people that I don't honestly remember I met them. And it happens all the time where somebody will be like, oh, Harlan, we met last year. I'll be like, But everybody at the event, I remember, I know who they are in a much deeper level, which is great.
I think a big part of it is I love the big events. I love the compression. I love the noise. And then I also love to be able to go away and be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I kind of need those at different times. It's not like putting on an event. We have pieces in place now with Chef Charles he just takes over the catering, Randy taking over the leadership topics and how we're going to weave those in. But there is a lot of complexity to be removed. And, we were all involved with the Built conference and RTC before that. And the complexity that comes from having sponsors and exhibitors and lanyards and marketing and branding, where all of those opportunities create expenses that you're then trying to chase to cover it. And I thought, you know what? The most people we can ever have is 50. If we have to do it more frequently, that will be better than doing a bigger event, because 50 people fit on one bus to an offsite. And you can get to know 50 people in a week. We don't have alcohol for the week because we have ski boats and e-foils and paddle boards and canoes. So let's just remove the complexity. And now I've seen the first year we had it, someone woke up and they said, I felt great this morning. And I just kind of woke up at 30 a.m. and thought, I'll just go for a walk. And I thought, okay, good. There you go. No alcohol. It's okay for a week. You have that quiet. And Charles
Right.
does amazing stuff, but it seems like, we would have leadership training at large companies. We had at Autodesk. Typically, that means pack your bags, fly somewhere, live in a hotel conference room with people that you don't know, go through check all the lists, fill out the forms, answer the questions, and you get a certificate at the end of a day or two. And I think this has to be not that. It has to be time where you can really get to know people and decompress and this idea of deposturing. Because when we go to the events, and I found myself obsessing over cufflinks, watching, what am I doing? I'm all worried about cufflinks. Now I'm probably not wearing shoes a lot of times. I wear flip-flops between, from the cabins to the meeting space, and then it's shoes off. And then it's just like shorts and t-shirts, and let people have honest conversations, because it gets complicated as you go up in your career, as life changes, as kids grow. There's just a lot of stresses that you have to fold into it. And so that's what we've tried to create, a way for people to mitigate that stress and change in life and change in expectations and do really well at it. Because at the end of the day, we have to love our teams. You really do have to love what you do. So,
Let's take a short break from the conversation to invite you to join the most influential technology leaders in the AEC industry at Confluence. Composed of in-person events and a podcast co-hosted by yours truly, Confluence is designed to foster conversations between AEC firms and technology companies so they can learn, share, and engage with each other to support industry innovation. Software company AVAIL, which creates content management solutions for the AEC industry, started hosting Confluence events in 2019 to understand what firms are needing, wanting, and thinking around technology. To learn more about Confluence, explore upcoming events, and listen to podcast episodes, go to confluence.getavail.com. My thanks to Confluence for supporting this episode of the Troxel Podcast. And now, let's get back to the conversation. Yeah, I think you said a word a minute ago. You said compression when you were talking about big events. And that is, a lot gets packed in to a few days, right? It really is kind of a go, go, go checklist. And you're trying to kind of have fun at the same time. And that could mean various things. But this, to me, really is kind of a decompression. And to get back to what Harlan was talking about, like the way it gets to be so open, like this is an opening, that first kind of outing that you do, Phil, where you go paddle on a natural spring, and you could stand up paddle or you could kayak, and you get to like be in nature. You got lots of great negative ions and all these, you just get to be together and no pressure at all to perform or to posture, like you were saying.
You don't have to be on.
And so you go do that event, like Harlan said, and it just kind of creates it starts to create the nest of this safe space that the rest of the week is going to be, which allows people to be so open and, dare I say, vulnerable in the best way, so that you can have real conversations and not just surface level stuff and not just the best of the best things that are going on. The social media version of one's life, which is, here's all the cool things I do, here's all the great things I've bought, it's not that version, right? And because it's all in one place, it's at this camp, and you don't have to worry about logistics, and you don't have to worry about wardrobe, and you don't, like, everybody's just in their swimsuit the whole time, right? Because
pretty much. Yeah.
that's what you can do. It just removes those layers of complexity and the kind of the shields that those things also represent, so that you can have real conversations and actually then facilitate personal and professional growth. And that's the whole point of an event like this, is to invest in yourself and be around people who like purposed in that way. They want to invest in themselves and bring, learn something for sure. But through the learning, you're also helping other people, because there's so much learned experience in the room together at the same time. It's like, I'm going through this. Is anybody? Oh, yeah, lots of other people. And I think that's one of the brilliant things about it, is because you've removed so much of the noise and the distraction and the layers of complexity, that people can just get to the meat of these issues, and you can actually come away with ammunition to do the thing that you need to do to get to wherever you're trying to get to. I mean, Harlan, your experience that you were talking about, I think gets to that, but maybe you can expand a little bit on your experience in those ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's just so, like I said, it's this tight group. It's hard. It's one of these things where it's unlike anything else that exists, and you don't have to be like, like the canoeing and the paddleboard and stuff. I know people are like, oh, I hate water, like, dude, like, or I prefer a hotel. But you realize, like, it's kind of like the best of both worlds. It's the idea that, yeah, I can show up, I can be who I am. I don't have to get all dressed up. I don't have to be on all the time. I can actually, like Phil, what you were talking about there around, like, oh, I feel like I have to worry about my cufflinks, or I have to worry about how I look or what watch I'm wearing. Like, you don't have to do that. And it's right away that first day of like, oh, okay, we're just all here. We're doing this thing. I'm not physical. I can barely, I don't work out. Like, I'm not an exercise. I don't paddle. Like, come on. But it's lazy. It's like being in a lazy river, and it, like, floating down the water.
It's light water or anything like that.
It's not crazy. And then, there's nature around you, and it's like, cool, there's a manatee in the water. There's there's some, like, gators on the thing. And they're over there. They're not going to do anything. And that kicks it off. And then, it just continues. And one of the other highlights Phil, you mentioned the food, like, you think, oh, I'm at a camp. Okay, what is this going to be like? What is this going to be? And then we bring in this, like, 5-star Michelin chef.
Legit chef.
To serve these amazing family style meals. And again, another opportunity to just have real connection with people, and even outside of the breaks. And there's also plenty of room for those side conversations and breaks that are happening as part of that. It's not, this, like, intense 3 days of, pure training, and you got homework and everybody's got to be on, and you're like, what did you do? Like a test at the end or anything? And at the end of the day, you're just standing on the dock and looking around at the sunset going, oh, okay, I can actually I need this, right? Like, that's the way I felt repeatedly. Like, this is what I need in this moment to be a better leader for my team, and take some of those things away. And like what you were saying about, we want to be better leaders for our people, and we want to deal with all this stuff in the most authentic and, easy way we can, and show up the best. And that sometimes gets really different when you're, from a technical person trying to solve an individual technical problem to, like, oh my God, now I have 10, 15 people and I got to figure out how do I help them grow, right? How do I help them be the next great leaders in the industry? There's just not that many spaces like that in AEC. And that's the other big thing. It's not general management, general leadership. It's about our industry. It's about the people in our industry. And
Randy calls
huge.
it it's leadership of self and others. It's not going to learn how to tell other people or get other people, and it's not transactional. It's not like, oh, we guarantee if you come to this event, your operating multiplier will become this great higher number. We're learning from it each time. Like this spring, for the first time, a group of people there for the technology event were like, can we just make one big table? Because there was kind of like a table over here and a table there, and there was food. And next thing, there's like dragging tables in the dining hall, and we have one big table. And then, Charles comes out and he's laying out plates of food, and we're just passing food. But I think there's an artifact. If you're going to be honest with yourself and others, you have to build trust, and eating together builds trust. And so one of the things I don't really enjoy at big events is the randomness of going into this giant hall and trying to find where I'm going to sit, because I don't know. Like, sometimes I need quiet, so I don't want 20 questions. And other times I'm just like, I just want to sit down and have this transaction with calories and go on to the next thing. But the piece that Charles does is he gives an opportunity for people, like at breakfast, when people aren't on yet, they're just like, hey, first thing I need is coffee. And then you sit down and, there is a transaction of trust, I think, when you start to have a meal together, and having regular meals together, like 3 meals a day for the better part of a week, builds trust. Harlan has conversations. We have conversations during Randy's piece, and speaking to his tendency to be a musician. The very first year, he kind of went, it was after lunch and it had been an hour and a half, and the energy was kind of settling. And Randy goes, you know what, let's just, for the rest of the day, let's just take the day off. Let's just go out. Everybody go out to the lake. And I panicked, like, Randy, we can't do this. We have to have 4 sessions a day for 3 days. And he goes, let people. And I went down to the lake and heard the first conversation was about work sets. And then the second conversation out of that, and people were laying up on the giant floaty thing on the lake, the kind of trampoline, grown guys pulling each other up on this. And now there's ladies that come along as well, helping each other. And they went, I got this deal at the office. And it just became this natural, organic conversation, and people sort of sharing and facilitating ideas. I don't know how we would do this in a hotel where you have to check all the boxes. But Randy has established this workflow during the event where by purpose, we have 2 events in the morning, 1 after lunch, and then it's like, okay, go for a walk, go for a hike, go sit, journal, go down to the lake, just sit in the shade for a while. And you'll find in the quiet, there are things that are there that you don't think about because of all the noise that are important.
Yeah, that flexibility, I think, is amazing, because this isn't one of those mental overhead exercises that everybody has in preparation for a large conference, which is pack the schedule with all the things and then stick to that, or maneuver to get into the class with the waiting list or whatever, right? Like, there's one track here, if you call it that. It's not even really a track, but it's like, okay, there's a schedule, but there's a flexibility to that schedule, and there's time built in to be removed. And you could go off and be solo. You could be off with a couple of other people. You could be off with a group. You've got flexibility to do whatever you want. And it's interesting to hear that you say that was an evolution in the process of kind of programming, quote unquote, of this conference. Harlan, what do you think about that aspect of it and what that affords you, or what you've taken away from that?
Yeah, for me, sometimes I'm an introvert. Sometimes I want to be by myself for a couple minutes. Sometimes I'm an extrovert and I want to spend it with a big group, or a fly on the wall in a big group. And sometimes, I want that like one-on-one connection. And that was one of the things that about this event that is so amazing, is that you get that. You get the meals with the group, and you can, be the fly on the wall. You don't have to talk in this conversation or with Randy, like actually in the room. But then afterwards, you can be like, oh, that was really interesting. Have a one-on-one conversation over here, or just go back to your room and chill, or go sit in a rocking chair and enjoy the view if you need to decompress that way. instead of constantly having to go to these big group,
Yeah.
and be on all the time. You get that flexibility. I mean, last year, I think when we went, I can't remember if it was acoustics or the other one, but we had like a game night that just happened naturally from everybody's like competitive nature. We went to the game room. They have like ping pong and stuff. And we're like, oh, we're going to do this tournament of around like, and it was just fun, right? Like, and it wasn't planned. It wasn't scheduled. It wasn't there, but actually the group kind of naturally
It wasn't
formed
forced
around
on
this.
anybody. Yeah, you have
We
to
didn't have it on a
participate.
spreadsheet. It was just like, you can do this, you can do this. And somehow, the competitive nature came out.
And we had a lot of fun.
It was all in joy.
Yeah, it was all joy. And there was a lot of joy at the event. I think that was the big thing, right? There wasn't this like, we have to, constantly be on and worried about the appearance or worry what's going to happen. And like I said, that really facilitated just better conversations than really I've had at other events or, it's not a training session where people are, where Randy's just lecturing to you for 8 hours and then you're expected to walk off and, take your notes and come back and be like, yeah, this is going to change my life. Like it was much more grounded in the realism of like, these things are dynamic. They flow, and giving you that freedom really was, it's amazing. Like it really was. It was like, I got to do this again. I got to come back for that event because of that opportunity. I told my wife afterwards, honestly, I said, this is like, I felt like a little bit of a vacation. I felt a little guilty because of that. But then she was like, wow, Harlan, you came back and I could totally see that you were in a better place than you had been before you came. And, I was like, okay, yep. I felt that as well.
Yeah, that's cool.
We aspire, although it hasn't been taken advantage of a lot, like it's meant to be a family-friendly event. If you want to bring a child or spouse, we can have counselor-led activities during the day. And when I asked the camp director, like, well, what kind of stuff would the kids do? He goes, oh, it's great. They can catch a fish and gun it. They can build forts. They can go throwing. They can do all these, like all the feral things I would have done as a kid that I don't know if we do so much now because we're staring at our phones. But they had counselor-led activities. So the idea that, hey, if partners want to go off and if they want to come to the event, fine. If they want to open up a book lakeside fine. And it's meant to be family-friendly event. And what normally happens is people come and they go, can I bring my kid to or my wife, spouse to this, right? So that, I expect we'll have some of that. We did last year. Yeah. Sylvia's daughter, wife and daughter came, and then Deanna had to go back to Atlanta, but they were there. Yeah, it's supposed to be that kind of event.
And there is a lifeguard on duty, right?
We have to have a lifeguard on duty.
There's a layer of safety there for
it's not unsafe.
For when somebody's in a class and they can't have their eyes on what's going on. That's really cool.
There's an adult, someone's there to.
There's somebody there. Yeah. I think one of the topics that I wanted to definitely make sure we touched on, and Harlan just talking brought it back to my attention, is like the continuity that's always running throughout the event that enables you to, you get some nuggets in these kind of sessions that are, everybody's sitting around a table and we're discussing some leadership topics, but then you can go away from those and just kind of ruminate and let the gears turn, let the subconscious work. And because the continuity of the same people, we're going to get together in various, circumstances, whether it's around a campfire or on a porch at night or in the game room or the following day at a meal or at another session. It's like, oh, we can continue that thing, or, oh, I thought of this other thing. What do you think about that? Whereas in a large conference, that's practically impossible, right? You'd have to schedule a Zoom call or a Teams call or something and hope you could get schedules to align and on all those things. But no, it's like the people are there, and because it's a small group, everybody's name and you can throw out ideas. And so I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's another, like that the decompression kind of mantra about this and this being like I think Phil, you said that this is the best parts of conferences are the conversations after the presentations, and that's what this feels like the whole time, which enables you to get real, but also have extended periods where things can just continue to bubble to the top, and you can go back and think about it, and then you can bring it up again, you can go back and think about it, and it just becomes kind of this flywheel of ideas. And to me, that's super valuable as somebody who wants to get better doing what they do, but also get input from people that you're building trust with and relationships with through this non-transactional setting that we're in.
Yeah, it's not transaction. It's not like check these boxes, fill out these forms. Randy knows I have an aversion to like, okay, here's a piece of paper, go out and answer these questions. I'm like, oh, it feels so impersonal. There is a routine, but then the routine compresses and decompresses, where you have meetings in the morning. I think when we're fresh, ready to go, Randy goes, how's everybody showing up? Give me one word, and then by the afternoon, there's the decompression, and and I think we look forward to both. And you can't just have the compression all the time. It's not a transaction. It needs to be a conversation.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Harlan, thanks for joining for your short story about your experience at the conference. I think it's super valuable. Obviously, we got to connect there, which was great. And just to back up your point earlier about just the kind of the caliber of people that are attracted to an event like this, it is a great place to quote unquote network, but that's not the right word. Like, this is really about building beyond the network, building deeper connections. And so I appreciate both of you guys coming on today to talk about that.
Thank you, Evan. Thanks, Harlan.
Yeah. Thanks, Evan.
Great,
Thanks,
buddy.
Phil. I mean, I really appreciate the time. Yeah, it's great.
Thanks to our sponsors, and thanks to our members this week. Find out how you can become a member at trxl.co. And I'll talk to you again next week.